I would put this in the pellet grill and smoker category. It is for anyone who wants real wood-fired flavor without the stress of chasing temperatures or babysitting charcoal. It is especially good if you cook for a crowd or you like to prep big batches for the week. I came from the charcoal world, and I wanted that smoke profile without turning every weekend into a fire management project. This has been the right balance of flavor and convenience for me. The design looks serious, but what matters is how those choices affect cooking. The steel body is thick and steady, and that translates into fewer temperature swings when the wind picks up. The bronze finish is not just for looks. It has held up to sun and rain without peeling, and it still wipes clean easily. The grill is large. It takes up real space on a patio, and it is heavy, but the big wheels make it manageable to roll when I need to tuck it away. The cooking area is split between a main grate and an upper rack, and that second tier has been the difference between making 2 racks of ribs and feeding a whole group. The grates are porcelain coated, and that matters because food releases more easily and cleanup is faster. There is a side handle that makes lifting the lid stable, and the chimney helps keep the airflow consistent. The pellet hopper holds about 18 pounds, which for me is roughly a long day of low and slow cooking, or a few shorter weeknight sessions. On the front, there is a simple control dial with a digital readout and a meat probe input. I use that probe all the time. It plugs straight into the controller so I can watch internal temperature without popping the lid. Setup was straightforward. I built it alone in about an hour and change with basic tools. The manual made sense, and the only moment that slowed me down was aligning the legs before tightening everything down. Once the parts were on, I ran the initial seasoning burn to cook off oils, then primed the auger with pellets. That first startup took a few extra minutes while it learned to feed. After that, daily use has been simple. I fill the hopper, turn the dial to smoke, wait for the flame to catch, then set my temperature. From a cold start, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes to get rolling, and then it climbs steadily. It is not the sprint of a gas grill. If I want high heat, I plan for a little patience. The controller is easy. It is a turn and click situation, and the display is readable in daylight. When I am done, the shutdown cycle is important. I spin the dial to the shutdown setting and let it clear out the fire pot and cool down. One time early on, I skipped that step and had a smoky mess to clean. Lesson learned. Performance is where this grill has earned its spot in my backyard. Temperature stability is the headline. Once it is at the set point, it stays within roughly 15 degrees most of the cook. If it is cold or gusty outside, the steel body and the controller still hold the line well enough that I do not think about it. At low temperatures, the smoke is gentle and builds a nice color on meat without tasting bitter. At higher temperatures, it shifts into a clean, hot burn for grilling. You will not get a steakhouse-level sear without help, but you can absolutely get a great crust by letting the grates preheat longer or by dropping a cast iron skillet on the grate. Pellet usage depends on heat. Low and slow barely sips fuel, while high heat cooks will chew through pellets faster. That is expected. The flavor is consistent, and I have had good results with a mix of hickory, oak, and fruit wood pellets. Keeping pellets dry is key. Moisture kills performance. I store extra bags indoors and only load what I plan to use. Let me talk through how it has handled real cooks. On a chilly, breezy afternoon, I did a rack party with ribs on the main grate and 2 more racks on the top shelf. I ran a low temperature for hours with a quick mop halfway through. The bark was even, the meat pulled clean off the bone with a gentle tug, and the color was that deep mahogany I look for. The temperature drop when I opened the lid recovered in a few minutes. On a summer weekend, I spatchcocked 2 chickens and gave them a dry rub. I used the probe in the thicker breast and let the grill cruise. Skin crisped up better when I bumped the temperature for the last stretch. That is a good trick for poultry on pellet grills. For salmon, I like to set the grill to a medium heat and let the pellets do the rest. The wood note is clean and not overpowering, and the fish flakes without drying out. I have also done pizzas on a stone. It loves a hot chamber and gives a nice crisp bottom with a little smoke kiss on the toppings. When I tried a brisket, I kept it simple. Salt, pepper, and patience. The grill kept pace overnight. I wrapped once the bark set, placed it back in, and the flat sliced with a good bend while the point was juicy for burnt ends. A very specific use case I keep coming back to is a weekend cook when friends come by. I will load the main grate with burgers and sausages, and I keep a tray of vegetables on the upper rack. The extra room means I can move food around based on doneness without juggling space. I usually grill the burgers at a medium-high temperature, then lower the heat and throw on wings tossed in seasoning. While the wings cook, I preheat a cast iron skillet on the grate, add sliced onions, and let them pick up that smoky edge. It turns into a rhythm where I am not chained to the grill, but I still feel in control. Another weekday use case is a quick salmon dinner. I season the fillets, set the temperature, plug in the probe, and come back when it hits my target. No guessing, no overcooking. There are some touches that genuinely help. The built-in meat probe saves me from opening the lid. The advanced controller logic holds temperatures tighter than I expected, especially for a big chamber. The porcelain-coated grates are easy to clean with a brush after a short warm-up. The grease management is simple. I line the drip tray with foil, and swapping it keeps everything tidy. The folding front shelf, which I added later, has become part of my flow. It pops up when I need a place for trays and spices, then folds down so the cover fits well. I do wish that shelf came standard because it changes how I prep. The wheels are large enough to roll over pavers without catching, which matters when I need to move it after a storm. And the bronze finish gives it a bit of character. It does not look like every black box grill on the block. There are a few quirks. Warm-up takes longer than a gas grill, especially when you want the hotter end of the range. If I open the lid a bunch of times, I see a temperature dip, and it takes a little to settle again. Planning the cook to avoid constant peaking makes a difference. At very high heat, pellet consumption jumps, so I save the long burns for smoking and use the high heat in shorter bursts for finishing or for quick cooks. Searing is good, but not the same as a roaring charcoal bed. If you are chasing that intense, fast sear, a cast iron skillet on the grate or a separate sear tool is a solid workaround. I also learned to keep the hopper topped off for long cooks and to give the pellets a quick stir if I am running near empty to avoid tunneling. The day-to-day maintenance is simple. After each cook, I brush the grates while they are still warm. Every few sessions, I vacuum out the fire pot and the ash below the heat baffle. I check the burn pot for buildup, and I replace the foil on the drip tray when it gets messy. The heavy construction has handled a year of sun and rain without a hiccup, and a good cover has kept everything looking fresh. If you want a pellet grill that makes genuine wood flavor easy, that handles big gatherings without drama, and that delivers predictable results with very little babysitting, the Traeger Grills Pro 34 has earned my trust. It is not the fastest to heat up, and it is not a steakhouse sear machine out of the box, but the trade-off is consistency, capacity, and a much calmer cooking experience. It rewards patience and planning, and it turns complex cooks into a set the temperature and let it work scenario. For me, it has taken the stress out of smoking and made grilling more fun. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with your questions or your own experience with pellet grills. Thank you for watching.